this podcast is for general informational purposes and entertainment only and should not be considered medical advice. Dr. Ashley is not responsible or liable for any advice, course of treatment, or other information you obtain through this podcast, and neither am I. So if you have any real problems, go see a doctor in person.
This is The Full Release with Mo Mandel.
And Dr. Ashley.
We've got such a great episode coming today.
What's up, guys?
Oh, this is amazing. So we have got Dan Savage, who is...
He's the fucking man.
He's the fucking man.
Of advice.
He's the best love, sex, and relationship columnist out there. He writes Savage Love, which is a column that's in over like 75 newspapers internationally. He's got an amazing podcast called The Savage Love Cast. And this is pretty fucking crazy. He is actually, along with his husband, the starter of the It Gets Better campaign.
Yeah.
Which is fucking a hugely awesome campaign, which was, begun to prevent suicide amongst LGBT youth. And he's just like a pioneer, a brilliant guy.
He's a thought leader.
He's a thought leader.
And also, if you've ever listened to his podcast or read his advice column, he just has like such a good brain.
He's got a good brain.
Like when somebody calls in, you sit down and you think, hey, what would I tell this person? And then you hear what he tells them and you're like, oh, that's better.
Yeah, it's better. And yet and he also smokes a lot of weed. So somehow he's even smarter despite smoking all that weed.
No, but that's the thing. He debunks the idea that that smoking all that weed is going to make your brain hazy.
Yeah.
He's just fucking a powerhouse.
After we interviewed him, I was so impressed. Now I want to start smoking more weed. As you guys will be able to hear, I am on Skype because I was doing stand-up in Phoenix. So I was on Skype weighing in while Ashley and Dan bonded, and I felt very jealous. Enjoy.
I'm literally working on a column right now, and I'm sitting here thinking, lady urologist, I'm going to ask her to be the guest expert next week's Savage Love.
I would love to do that. And I spend lots of time thinking and talking about penises and clitorises and surgeries you can do on them and medications you can give for them and all of that sort of stuff. So
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
The thing that comes up constantly, it's a letter I basically ignore because it comes in 14 times a day, are guys with premature ejaculation who want to know what they can do about it. And my advice is like, work with what you got. Like if you come quickly, use a dildo first, do oral first, come quickly and then wait 10 minutes, get through your refractory period. It'll take you longer the second time. Like roll with what your dick does rather than going into eternal battle to try to fix your dick.
Right.
Is that shitty advice? Because I sometimes hear there's like a medication coming down the line for this, a pill. But can anything be done about premature ejaculation?
I love that you asked this question because we were going to play a question about premature ejaculation. So yes, because tons of people have it. And I was actually just looking at an article in this journal, the Journal of Sexual Medicine, peer-reviewed medical journal, that 1 in 20 men actually have lifelong premature ejaculation. So their entire life.
Well, what does that mean? Like, is there like a time criteria?
Oh, so good. Okay. If you look at medical research on premature ejaculation, it's actually the most fun and ridiculous stuff to read because it's medically defined as something called an IELT, or intravaginal ejaculatory latency time.
Wow, heteros.
Yo,
Premises
for sure.
right there. Where's the vaginal in my, like the gay guys with premature ejaculation, there's no vaginal at play there.
Oh, without a doubt. And this is something that comes up time and time
Unless
again.
they're the gay guys who call their partners butts boy pussies, but we're not going to think about that.
Unfortunately,
Let's not just skip over that. Is that a common term?
Yeah, there are lots of guys out there who even becoming more popular. I think it's a reaction to the whole mask for mass culture thing and the kind of bro-ish gay dudes of the last 20 years. There's a lot of gay guys now who are calling their butts cunts, not just pussies, but cunts, and kind of eroticizing that word and appropriating it. And since women don't like it, maybe the gay guys can have it.
Very interesting. Yeah. Well, they can have it. I don't care.
Anyway, I knocked you off your off your
no. That was super interesting.
Intravaginal hoo-ha Hindenburg.
Let's definitely name. Can we name this episode? Can we just name this episode "Butt Cunt" right off?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Okay, for sure. That gets to a point that medical literature and medical studies around sex always try to standardize the entry criteria. And by doing that, you have to be most of the time in a heterosexual, monogamous, long-term relationship. And they will define that before they study drugs that, for FDA approval, all this sort of stuff. So
they're just trying to establish a baseline to measure effectiveness, so there aren't all these other variables at play. I don't think that's necessarily evidence of heterosexism.
Yeah.
Like to establish that baseline and then see what the drugs do, and then not have to control for 40 variables.
Right.
Like, am I fucking a vag or a boy pussy?
No, for sure. And if you had people fucking everything under the sun and you were trying to figure out which ones made you come less soon, it would probably be a little complicated.
Maybe it was premature ejaculation. Maybe it was the hollowed out gourd was just too arousing.
Exactly. But regardless, so that IELT less than a minute is how you medically would define premature ejaculation. So
that's what I define as a marathon. Guess I've been off this whole time.
Yeah, and it is really crazy. So,
do you want to know something crazier that I find fascinating? Because I always like the outliers.
Yeah.
There are people who are trying to induce premature ejaculation in themselves or their partners, because there are people in sort of cuckold relationships where the wife may have like great sex with her boyfriend, her beau, or her other partners.
Yeah.
And the whole, they go on this campaign to ruin sex with the husband. And it's the husband wants this too. And like one of the things that you see people eroticizing or trying to do is induce premature ejaculation in the dude who is the husband, so that his sex life is curtailed, shortened, ruined, that he's more and more inadequate than he already like eroticized being, which is why wife had to go run off with other people. I think we should call, it's a shame that somebody else already got this name, because maybe guys with premature ejaculation would feel better if they had like a cute name like preemies.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a community.
Yeah.
But preemies are tiny little babies that came out too soon.
How about if we have, I don't say we, but how about if those guys call themselves sprinters?
Sprinters. They're not in the marathon, they're a sprint.
That's good.
It's like...
you medal, dude, but you medal in a different event.
I think we should give this name. And I always think about this because, you have a lot of sex positive stuff going on. And I think... sex positivity and sex is everywhere, but sexual dysfunction, people are not kind of out about it in a way, right? Like you can have a march for...
But half the time when people talk about sexual dysfunction, they're not normative, and they desperately want to be normative. And like so much of like the sex advice racket is like urging people to work endlessly on something that I often look at and say, okay, just embrace that that's how your dick works.
For sure.
Or embrace that that's how your sexuality works.
Hey, were you
Stop fighting
suggesting...
it.
Neighbor, are you suggesting they do a march for premature ejaculation?
Yeah,
I love that.
Well,
it's a one-block march.
And here's
that
the
ends
thing.
before they're like a third of the way up that block.
And we're done.
It will be the sprint for premature ejaculation. So I think you get on a great point, which is sexual dysfunction always is defined by a set of symptoms and distress associated with that.
Right.
And no matter what you do,
but the distress can be self-generated.
Yes.
Where the partner isn't upset, but I'm upset because there's this standard that I'm falling short of that I would like to hit. But my partner is like women who don't like vaginal intercourse, who have partners who don't particularly like vaginal intercourse either, just want to eat their pussies, want to do mutual masturbation, roll around.
Right.
And yet both will write me to say, help us fix this thing that doesn't actually make us unhappy, except that we've convinced ourselves it must.
And that's a problem. It's a problem when people are in that situation. What we don't want to happen is that somebody is actually doesn't like, vaginal intercourse because their entire life they've had pain associated with that, and that was never discussed with them, and they thought that was normal.
But if you work on the pain, and people go into pelvic floor clinics, people visit Laurie Brodo up at the University of British Columbia and her clinic, and they'll spend a decade working on it and not be able to fix it. And at some point, can you say to somebody, you know what, there's all sorts of sex that you can enjoy. Maybe you should stop wasting your time trying to get to the sex that you haven't been able to enjoy and may never be able to enjoy, and enjoy what you can.
Yeah, and when I was in fellowship and I was training with this man who's a wonderful mentor to me, Erwin Goldstein, and he, in his practice, is a urologist who does sexual dysfunction, and he's a pelvic floor physical therapist, and he has a psychiatrist psychologist in his office, with the point being that no matter where you are or no matter what works or doesn't work, coming to, a sense that where you are is workable, or that internally you're
Okay,
kind
well,
of,
that would be good if people could take the pleasure that's available to them now, even as they're working toward maybe more different kinds of pleasure, but to enjoy that and let it, really be as awesome as it is.
Yeah.
As opposed to every time you have one of those other sexual encounters or orgasms experienced, regarding it as some tragic consolation prize that just emphasizes how inadequate you are. Because it ain't necessarily so.
right. No.
It's such a big, it's such a truth in that, like, so much of the misery we experience with not just sex, I think, but also just life in general, is trying to meet some sort of imaginary standard. Just this is what life is supposed to feel like when you wake up on a sunny day, or this is what it's supposed to feel like when you have sex with somebody. And it's sort of like, and none of us really know, like, does it actually feel like that for anybody, or is this just sort of what, like,
are you not supposed to be curled up in the fetal position on the floor crying when it's over? Because that's what it always is for me.
Well, that's why we brought you here. We want you to weigh in on why
we
I
love
do that
it.
every time.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next topic because you're not going to talk about this again on my fucking podcast next week.
Yes. I love it.
Well, Dan, I wanted to ask you a question relationship-wise. So, me and Ashley do this podcast together. Now, we have a lot of fun with it, but we met about a little over a year ago when I was doing stand-up in Portland. I live in LA, so I come up there. She comes down every 10 or 11 days. On top of the difficulty of a long-distance relationship, we have saddled ourselves with the difficulty of doing a podcast together. Are we dooming ourselves?
You're dooming yourselves. I don't think you're necessarily dooming yourselves. You're putting yourself in this predicament, though, where there may come a time where you're performing your relationship for your listeners and not enjoying your relationship anymore. And that is the time always before the fall. We see that a lot, I think, on HGTV, where they always have these couples who are flipping houses or doing real estate together. And then they always seem to inevitably get divorced. So just be careful. Be careful.
Yeah.
That you don't end up performing your relationship.
I know. And it is an
There's a reason my husband does not come on my show very often.
I've heard him on there.
But when he's on, it's just to pimp a commercial with me. To pimp an ad, not to sit there and give sex advice with me. My husband is a dangerous man in front of a live microphone, so I don't let that happen.
That's awesome.
I don't feel like we perform our relationship, but we do.
Not now. You don't. Not at the beginning.
Right.
Instead, if it's a success and then it takes off and you're kind of stuck, then you have to be really careful that you don't end up allowing the relationship to curdle, because this gap will open between the public performance of your relationship and the lived experience of your relationship. And the performance of it can make what, a lived experience that's a good, rewarding, complicated, tough, long-term relationship feel inadequate. And I feel like that can become a cancer on the relationship that otherwise might have survived if it weren't for this sort of public fronting that made you both feel like hypocrites on HGTV. Mostly this seems to be a problem there.
So don't go on HGTV.
Yes, that's my advice.
He's really terrible with tools. Also, he can't.
Can't.
I have more power tools than he does.
He already knew I was Jewish. He didn't have to bring that up. So
I'm also Jewish and a chick. So there you go.
Yeah, but you're a surgery chick. That makes you more of a man than I'll ever be.
Touche.
All right, let's. Dan,
you cut open dicks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I do all the surgery. It's actually the primary surgical interest that I have. So
is cutting open dicks.
Not cutting open dicks, but sexual dysfunction surgery. So, and there,
which amounts to a lot of cutting open dicks.
Mostly cutting open dicks. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of reason why surgeons or physicians have less interest in female sexual dysfunction than male is because there's less to cut on, and we like doing surgery. And I'll tell you, on top of that, why physicians have embraced trans so much is in part because they like doing the surgery. And I mean, I think it's nice that a kind of thing that they already like led to a positive bystanding effect, but now all these people had no interest in LGBTQ or something like, oh, we love trans stuff, and it's because I want to do 14-hour surgery, and it's a very interesting thing that you only see from the inside of that. But
it's funny to hear you say that, you like cutting open dicks and, operating on men's genitals, cis men's genitals, because there's more to work with and a lot of it's external. And I've always kind of felt the same about being gay. I know my way around the vulva, vagina, clitoris, everything, perineum. like an autistic person who's never been to Japan knows the Japanese subway system. Like they could tell you exactly where to get off, even though they've never been. That's me. I've never been to Japan. I've never ridden the subway, but I'm the autistic guy who knows the Japanese subway system.
Yeah.
But I've always felt like being gay, like I know when we're done. He came. He's done, I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty self-explanatory bit of business. There isn't a lot going on down there. And really, women's genitals are sort of disassembled male genitals, or male genitals are reconfigured female genitals.
Yeah.
Because using the cisgender definition for both, please don't glitter me. Because, it's all made from the same basic component parts. It's just the hormone zap caused them to merge and assemble differently.
Yeah.
But really, like, pussy's the box that Dick came in. You know what I mean? Or pussy is what Dick was when it arrived in the box before it got put together.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean...
Did I mention that I'm stoned before we started recording?
Pussy is the box that Dick came in. Do you write Valentine's Day cards at Hallmark? That is adorable.
It is my sideline.
Yeah.
Gotta have a side hustle.
You got to.
Yeah. No, I will say as a surgeon, one of the reasons why I just love sexual dysfunction for a variety of reasons, but I do like operating on penises better than vaginas because it's this kind of dark hole and your neck hurts and it's hard. It's just hard to do surgery on them. And
on vaginas.
And doing surgery on penises is just great. It's just so nice.
Have you ever
it's
had a
such
problem
nice
with
organ.
a medical fetishist coming in and faking something because he wants a hot urologist surgeon to cut his dick open?
That's weird.
And operate on him?
That is a great question. I don't think I have. I really don't. I mean, there are definitely
because I've heard
people...
from other friends who are doctors that they've sometimes like had encounters of like, oh, this is a medical fetishist, not somebody who's pill seeking, not somebody with Munchausen syndrome. This is somebody who is going to go home and jack off about this.
Yeah,
like the guy who came in like 4 times in a year to 4 different guys to get colonoscopes.
Right. That's really interesting.
Wait, is that a real guy? Like that's been documented? Guys, like people. Like, off on colostomies.
It's been documented in that like a doctor told me about it.
Right. Oh, I'm sure it happened.
That sounds solid to me. But well, Dan, it's funny. We were actually talking about because you mentioned pelvic floor stuff. Ashley one time came to visit me in LA, and she went off to a pelvic floor training seminar where women were like learning how to they were put.
Yeah,
they were putting their fingers in guys' butts to learn how to do this kind of stuff and all this.
Wait, in guys' butts to examine the pelvic floor?
Okay, I will explain.
That's a roundabout way to get to the pelvic floor.
No, it's not. Okay, wait. So I have really good friends who are pelvic floor physical therapists, and I went to a class that they teach on doing pelvic floor physical therapy for male pelvic pain. And they had me come because I examined pelvic floors and also because they had a lot of questions about hormones and I know a lot about that. And so I helped out, but they had male models come and they practiced doing physical exam. And
so that's what RuPaul's pit crew does during the off season when they're not filming.
Yeah, and my question was, who are these guys who volunteered? Like, who are these guys who are like, oh, that's how I want to spend a Saturday? Like 20 women.
Homeless guys from the Tenderloin that they gave $10 to.
They probably
exactly.
I know
exactly.
this. I know this.
Oh my God, no. They wouldn't have to look hard in San Francisco to find guys who would like women to dig around in their butts. I hear from those guys every day.
I know, but it's such a weird thing. Like
he was just bothered because I got home and I was like, I'm going to tissue roll your scrotum. And I start doing that. And he's like, what? How did you learn this? And I was like, I was practicing it earlier on.
You can't be the jealous type.
12 guys.
You cannot be the jealous type and with a urologist, right? Like those guys out there who are worried because they think that their girlfriend has once been with or seen or heard about or saw a photo of a slightly larger penis. Like, dude, you get the gold star. You're obviously not insecure because your women in dicks.
I know. I always talk about this in my stand-up where it's sort of like every time I pull out my penis, I feel like in her mind, she's like, all right, it's better than my 3 o'clock. But,
but my 10 a.m.
The truth is, though, if you're a urologist, you probably don't see the good ones. Like no one goes to the doctor for a high five. Hey, can we ask Dan about this film festival? Because I want to give him this amateur part.
Yes. So Dan is in town because he is the host and creator and everything
Curator of Hump, which is an amateur porn short film festival. And it's everything from hardcore porn to animation to musical shorts to mini documentaries, all on the subject of porn, if not pornographic themselves. I'd say about 80% of the films involve some sort of graphic depiction or film of sex, but a lot of the films are just funny. A lot of them are, comedy shorts with fucking in them that are great. And people share their stuff, and they're made by amateurs. They're made by people with their friends and lovers. Some people now go out and get real film crews or have hired real directors to work on these films and are, making some really polished quality films. But in the mix, we have a lot of like stuff filmed on phones.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. It's really fun. And when we started it, it's 14 years old. And when we started it, we said, let's do an amateur porn film festival just in Seattle. And the publisher of the paper was like, no one will submit. And so he wouldn't let us do it.
Wow.
No one would submit to have porn they made in Seattle screened for Seattle audiences that could, their parents could show up, their coworkers. So he said, no. They finally relented after 3 years and let us just put the announcement out there, like call for submissions, amateur porn film. And we got so much porn.
That's so cool.
Never underestimate porn.
And then we got, the question became, we booked a theater, and it was like, is anybody going to come sit in the dark next to strangers and watch pornography in a movie theater the way their grandparents did when they saw Debbie Does Dallas Behind the Green Door? And the answer to that question was, yeah. Like, we're all sold out tonight. 3 shows at Revolution Hall in Portland. Sold out in Seattle at On the Board. Sold out at the Victoria Theater in San Francisco tonight. People want to see these porn shorts in like big groups, and it's it wasn't the point. Like, we first did it would be like funny, a laugh. There's amateur porn out there. Like, the means to production of porn have become so much less even then 14 years ago. Now everyone carries a porn production studio around with them in their pockets.
Yeah.
It was just for a lark, but it actually has become has this accidental like social good or mission or a mission that it produces. Because what happens is, we have this huge audience last night, 2 huge audiences, mostly straight and mostly cisgendered and probably mostly vanilla. And you've got, and there's queer people and kinky people too, and trans people, but you've got like straight people watching straight guys watching hardcore gay porn, and gay guys watching a lot of cunnilingus, and vanilla people watching kink. And there's this thing that happens, and I love to talk about it, so I'm just going to go off for a minute, where, you have this, if you have a brand new audience of people never seen Hump before, about, the first third, the first like 4 or 5 movies, people are just kind of a little knocked back in their seats, like kind of wincing and looking away, or a little like uncomfortable. And at about a third of the way through, the mood begins to shift. Everyone begins to clap and cheer for every film. And then by the end of it, it's just this raucous party. And it's not like we save the safe stuff for the end and we put the like hardcore stuff at the beginning. It's a mix.
Yeah.
And what happens is, and it's so palpable for those of us who watch the audiences during Hump, because we're always looking out to make sure no one has a phone in their hands because we don't want any bootlegs. Because the idea behind Hump is you get to be a porn star for a weekend in a theater, not a porn star for eternity on the internet.
Right.
So the films are not released online. So we're
Aside
watching,
from watching for phones, you have to make sure no one's like jerking off and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have a no dicks out rule at Hump. It's,
Right.
if you've got to masturbate, you'll have to retire to the Pearl District or wherever it is that people in Portland masturbate. Not in the theater tonight at the show, please.
The Pearl Necklace District.
But there's this thing that happens. That's a good one.
Thank
There's
you.
this
That
thing
was
that
really
happens where, like, for the first third, new people have never been to Hump. All they can see is what's different. Like, that's not the kind of body I'm attracted to. That's not the kind of sex act I like. That's not my sexual orientation. That's not my gender identity. That's not me, not me, not me, not me. And that's what really pushes them away or knocks them back in their seats. Because when you watch porn now, you only click on the shit you want to watch that speaks to you. You don't have porn laid out in front of you that you didn't have any control over. And that's really what happens at Hump. So the first third, oh, not me, not different. And like by halfway through, all these people who initially could only see the differences are seeing everything that's exactly the same. Lust, desire, passion, a sense of humor, vulnerability, an intensity of a connection.
Yeah.
All of this shit under that thin layer of difference is massive. And it's almost like what the differences are the frosting on the cake and the similarities are the fucking cake.
Yeah.
And there's this moment when you watch Hump, when you watch the audience at Hump and not the films, where you can see people go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I can eat this cake. I can put this cake in my mouth. This
So-
big, hot, sweaty cake in my mouth.
It really demystifies the differences between the sexualities, I'm sure.
It does. It does. And nobody sits there going, I wonder if these people wanted to be in this. There's no, because it's an amateur porn film festival. These films are made by friends and lovers who are having a blast and clearly having a blast, whatever it is that they're doing.
Do you have a hard time watching non-amateur porn, like for your own personal pleasure?
Another question. I didn't think you were kind of.
Because I've recently got very
into porn.
That's been sort of an interest for a while. But amateur porn, I've gotten more into lately, and I don't know why I'm more aroused by it.
There's a lot more of it available now, thanks to the tubes, the porn tubes.
Yeah.
It's a lot more easily accessed. I'm old enough to remember when the VHS tape player became a thing that was in people's living rooms, and suddenly there were video stores and there were porn sections of video stores, and then there were amateur porn compilations that you could get at the video store. But now there's an amateur porn open spigot in every porn tube. But I don't watch it, like outside of Hump Jury and the Hump Festival, I don't actually watch a lot of porn. Ironically, my tastes in erotica tend to be more typically kind of female, cliche female. Generalizations about 3.5 billion people, and 3.5 billion people will be hundreds of millions of exceptions. I read erotica. I like to read dirty stories more than I like to watch dirty movies. There's just something about a hot white light pointed at an ass crack that makes the rectal mucus glisten in a way that kind of bumps me out. I just don't want to watch that.
No, and
do you feel like you're better than us who watch it?
No.
No, we're better. I agree with you that just watching two people fuck, like, I don't know. I just don't.
Occasionally that can be hot, but you can't watch all. That's what's so good about the Hump's 5-minute limit. Like sometimes it's hotter to watch two hot people fuck for 30 seconds than to watch them fuck for 45 minutes.
I don't know. Yes. I mean, I understand you're doing that because Mo is, curled in the fetal position jerking off. So he needs it to go on for 40 minutes. But,
well, first of all, who the hell watches porn for 45 minutes? I mean, just because it's a 45 minute.
Not preemies.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you're watching that in 9 different installments.
You have an intra-hand latency period of how long? 15 seconds, maybe? But, a question I have is just how do you guys decide what goes in? Like, are you bombarded and watching amateur porn for just like hundreds of hours at home?
We get about 200 submissions, 225 submissions. There's only 22 to 24 slots, depending on how long the films are. So we lock ourselves in a conference room, the Hump Jury, it's me and about 6 or 7 other people. We lock ourselves in a conference room at the Stranger, and we watch porn for like 2-3 days straight.
Wow.
Damn.
And, most of it is not to my taste. I watch a lot of cunnilingus for a fag in his 50s who doesn't have to have sex with women because compulsory heterosexuality is no longer a thing. I watch a lot of fucking cunnilingus in that 3-day burst every year. What gets in is like what's good, what's interesting, what's funny, what we haven't seen before, what clearly is consensual, where there's clearly joy. Some people have made really great movies that were riffing on sort of non-consensual themes, but they were so dark that you had to do the work of going, okay, this is consensual because it's a film that they all signed releases. This is turning them on. Yeah. But it can leave such a bad taste about it. We need a wink in a film that's portraying sort of a non-consensual kind of scene that turns people on. So it all just depends. Like we want everyone to see themselves in Hump. So there are times where we go, okay, here's our run list. Well, this movie that was really on the bubble, this movie that was like in or out, that gives us, a population that otherwise, if we don't include this movie, won't see themselves represented in Hump. Yeah. We don't want that.
I just keep feeling sorry for these couples who have to. I just imagine a guy walking into the kitchen, his wife's making breakfast. He's like, "We got rejected."
It happens. Oh my God!
We hired our friends.
People get heartbroken. People cry. We've had people be so furiously angry that they didn't get into Hump because their film was better than something. And then they'll come to Hump and they'll think, why is this film in? My film was better. And sometimes it's true, their film was better. But there are years where we'll like suddenly get 5 James Bond parodies out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
No way.
Or, I'm sorry, lesbians, but we'll get 5 films from lesbians, all of which involve the fruit and vegetable drawer, all of which involve we're cooking in the kitchen and now we're putting carrots and cucumbers in each other's pussies and then continuing to cook and then we're going to eat the salad. Like we've seen that film 8,000 times. We get that film 5 times every year. And so we'll include, we literally call it the fruit and veg slot. We'll include one
that is so funny.
fruit and veg in hump, but we can't have
That
5
is-
fruit because then people just see the like refrigerator and be like, oh, this again?
That's been
All right,
done
so I'm
before.
asking-
And sometimes
friend-
that, you know, sometimes the 4 or 5 other fruit and veg films, you know, on their merits judged individually, one of them might have not as been as good as the other fruit and veg that got in, but the rejected fruit and veg might be better than the fist fucking film that got in objectively.
yeah.
But we needed, you know, we wanted a fist fucking film and a fruit and veg,
This-
not fruit and veg, fruit and veg, fruit and veg, fruit and veg, fruit and veg.
If somebody sues you, it might go to the Supreme Court for, you know, admission standards.
I imagine
So-
Kavanaugh would rule in porn's favor.
Okay, so we do questions on our doo-doo. We do questions.
I don't take doo-doo questions because I'm not into corpophilia at all. Even answering the questions
I
skeeves
do
me
know
out.
that about you too. The things I know about you, that you portray on your podcast, even though it's mostly about other people, are that you're not into poop. You don't like photos taken of yourself, and you're not into being naked or
Hugged.
or talking to sex about with parents.
Yeah.
Those are the things you're
or
not.
family.
Yeah, you're
Wait,
not
you're
into
not,
those
you're not
things.
into be. You don't like to be naked. You're like David Cross in Arrested
He's a never
Development.
nude. No,
I'm
he's
not
not.
a never nude. I'm just like not comfortable with nudity. Unlike, say, some people I could name that I'm married to who are a little too comfortable with their nudity. I just, you know, I'm not comfortable with clothes off. I like to wear
Yeah, you like clothes.
clothing.
Yeah, that's
And I
fine.
don't like to be naked in public. I could never go to a nude beach or anything like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the gay men that I know who like to go to like public sex environments and get naked and jump around, like I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And not that I think there's anything wrong with it. So I don't think I have a hang up. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Doesn't turn me on. Anyway,
So-
those are true things that you do know about me.
So
from
those
the
are
show.
yes. So those are the things. But we also take questions, and so since we have you here and you're the guru of taking questions, we thought we would have you take some questions.
And caveat, asterisk, I'm stoned and shouldn't be operating an advice podcast at this moment, but go ahead.
This
I'm
will
never
make
stoned
it
when I do my
better.
own show. I'm just stoned for yours.
You are so thoughtful on your own stuff, but the way to think about it is that our advice usually comes off as we're stoned, even though we're not. So
Comes off like we're on meth.
some combination of meth and weed, yes, is how we come off. Okay, so we're gonna play our first question.
No, but babe, we have to set it up. So this is our signature segment, Dan.
Oh.
We do real questions, but then we also have a signature segment called real answers to fake questions that we get.
Yes.
Because a lot of people like to write us in and email us stupid fake questions. We like to take them very seriously.
Okay, so these are the fake questions?
So we're going to play you a
this-
fake, but you have to take this very
I will take it
seriously.
deadly serious.
You-
I take fake questions all the time. I'm sure it's Savage
Yeah.
Love and the Savage Lovecast. People are like, oh, don't you worry about getting a fake question. Every question is just a good hypothetical to
Right.
every listener or reader but one.
This
So
one's
if it's a
very
good hypothetical, who gives a shit? Whether
This
it's
one's
fake.
Very hypothetical.
This one's very hypothetical. Okay. And this was to contextualize even more. This was after we were on another podcast and talking about doing penis surgery. So that's why he was thinking about it.
Want to know if her or someone like her, the odds of getting my own penis surgically attached to my forehead so I can go into porn as the unicorn.
Okay. What's that doing? Sorry.
It sounds like that porn has already started.
Yeah. Here comes the unicorn.
Okay.
That's interesting. So it's, I mean, I don't want to speak for you as a, in your festival, but I feel like if he did this, he would probably get into hump.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
If he
Like,
had
I feel
a
like-
penis on his
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I doubt you get a lot of unicorn.
We don't, and we should, because there are actually like dildo gags and unicorns that are on straps that you could wear around your forehead right now.
Yeah.
You
Right.
don't have to wait for this improbable surgery.
I
Now,
mean,
Ashley, have you ever done this surgery before, babe?
it did fail, but we tried. It was a arduous process, but
You had your own little island of Dr. Moreau going. There you
Yeah,
go,
we had
another
a team
4-year-old
of-
pop culture reference for the kids. No,
I don't know.
I'm not a doctor, but
yeah.
I would guess that you can't transplant nerves, and there wouldn't be sort of a nerve root to reattach that nerve to, if that was even possible, in the forehead.
Right. That is a great question. So you would have to pick up. We can dive into this as real as possible. So you would have to find a place on the head that has nerves and vessels, right? And so and this is interesting. So yes, in the middle of your
But there's
forehead,
all sorts
you would
of
be able
nerves,
to do
like
that.
huge root nerves that are running through
Right.
and to and from your crotch.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of big fat nerves with a lot to do that are running through your forehead.
I know they're not, and I would say the closest you could come to this would probably be putting it near your TMJ, so the joint that opens your mouth, right? And those are strong and powerful nerves. And when you hear of somebody
So
who's
you
like
look like
a
some wonky
TMJ,
ass deformed unicorn with the horn on the side of the face.
But we
right,
have
and
to
every
factor
time you
in,
chew,
too.
you
have
could
to-
have like erotic sensation from
That's true.
chewing.
But you'd have to
you
style
could have
yourself
some-
as like the Chernobyl unicorn.
Yes, you would. So I think
But at
the
least
only
if
way
it's
to,
on the forehead, the balls are going to be covering your eyes, and that's a real problem.
well, you would have to
that's
take the
gonna-
balls along with it.
Could
In
you
fact,
leave the balls down below and just move the shaft?
Yes,
That's
in fact, it would be extraordinarily hard to move the balls along. So
But
you
then
would probably
what's
just
going
put
to
the
come out of
shaft.
that dick on the forehead? He's not going to be able to ejaculate if you don't move the
Thoughts.
balls, unless you like
Thoughts will
run
come out.
ducts from the prostate all the way up to the forehead.
Yes.
There's a lot more going on than just
Oh.
like the shaft.
But this is why the face would be so great, because you could have the saliva come out.
So it could be just drooling or a spitting dick, like a spitting dragon.
And when you're congested, it would like have like mucus coming out of it. I don't know. It'd be very complicated, but I bet you there's some team of doctors out there who like
Who are
given it
hard at
enough.
work on this.
Yes.
The same people who are trying to like turn chickens back into dinosaurs or revive the woolly mammoth. When they've
Yes.
successfully revived the chicken woolly mammoth, we will get them on the dick on the forehead problem.
Oh, I can't.
Either way,
wait.
this sounds like a good episode of Black Mirror, and I hope they make it soon.
I haven't seen that, but cool.
Just trust them. Trust that it's a great joke.
Yeah, I trust.
What are we looking at?
Oh, that was my face.
The side of your face, it almost looked like the crotch for a second. I was like, am I looking down his belly? I couldn't tell.
This is what we do, Dan. I'm on FaceTime for anybody who's wondering why he's looking at my face from that angle. But what we do is we get guests on it, and then I try to expose myself at some point during the podcast.
That's what I thought was happening, actually.
Yeah.
The first thing I saw when I walked into the apartment was a dick on a shelf, and so
Yeah,
I thought
well,
maybe I was
that's-
going to get another treat.
You just got Me Too'd.
Yeah. Good job.
Should we take a real question now? A real question?
Yeah, we can take a real question. I'm
Yeah,
trying to think. We
let's.
already addressed kind of the premature ejaculation one, and we did the one about us being on a podcast.
What about the bisexuality one?
You can ask. You want to do that?
All right. So this is Dan. This is an email we got. Now, for our listeners, you can always email us at thefullreleasepod@gmail.com, or you can call us at babe. You know the number better than I do.
213-631-3460.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to lock Dan in our apartment, so he'll be here for every episode going forward.
Okay, so what's the question?
So yeah. Tell us
Okay,
the
so
question.
this is an email we got. All right. I have a girlfriend who is bisexual, which at first I was super excited about, but it turns out she has zero interest in being with women and with me at the same time. So now it's like I get nothing out of it, and I'm worried that she's going to be cheating on me with her female friends. Is this a rational fear to have? She claims we're monogamous and she's monogamous, but I still feel uncomfortable.
Oh, I get in trouble. This is the sort of question that gets me in trouble because my
Good. That's what we need. We need some scandals online.
Because my sample is skewed. People come to me when they have problems or their partners have problems. They don't come to me when everything's working the way it ought to. There are bisexual people out there who make and keep and can honor monogamous commitments. People talk about monogamy and bisexuality as if there isn't a problem with monogamy and heterosexuality or monogamy and homosexuality. Monogamy is a struggle for everybody who attempts it, and most people seem to fail at some point. All that said, I get so many letters from people who are bisexual and committed monogamous relationships that say, I haven't been with a woman in so long, I am dying to be with a woman. And that can be a letter from a woman, that can be a letter from a man who's in an opposite sex committed monogamous relationship. My sample seems to say, but I don't know if it's representative. I don't know if it's statistically significant. Seems to say that that's not an irrational concern. If you're committed in a monogamous relationship with somebody who's bi, that they may reach a point where like they really want some of what you don't have and can't provide them with. So maybe it's better to make a monogamous commitment with a bisexual because then you don't have to worry about that. All of this is bullshit though, because as if you don't have to worry about your committed heterosexual monogamous partner wanting some strange themselves.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, most people, no matter what long-term relationship they're in, probably look, their eye travels. And whether it's somebody with matching genitals.
I'm always wanting to like troubleshoot a relationship, to like remove from the path of the stones that people trip over all the time that they shouldn't. For instance, I saw you looking at that waiter or that barista. I suppose you want to have sex with them. It's like, yeah, of course I do. Of course I want to fuck the barista. The barista's hot. Who doesn't want to fuck the hot barista?
Right.
People spend so much time and waste so much energy and generate so much conflict in their relationship, policing each other for what they should just accept, which is, of course, your partner wants to fuck other people. Do they fuck other people? No. Okay. Are they considerate about not rubbing your nose in it when there's other people that they might want to fuck? Okay.
Right.
They're good at this. Like, knock it the fuck off. Stop blowing up because you caught them checking somebody out when they didn't think you were looking. Like, fucking eat that.
Right.
And it's the same thing with this, like bisexuality. Like, you're with somebody who's bi, here's this stone in the road. They may reach a point where they really want to be with somebody else who is of the same or the opposite sex, depending. What are you going to do? If you remove that stone from the road, if you make that not a problem, then you don't have to worry about it because there's some allowance for it, because there's an accommodation or there's an understanding, where there's a time and a place where this can happen. And, the person who wrote in, my girlfriend's bi, I thought that would mean, some hot guy, girl, three ways and some live porn, which a lot of guys think, not always the case. But I think, a relationship is a negotiation and you have to come to mutually agreeable terms. You want a monogamous commitment unless you're involved. She wants to eat some pussy. Okay, what level of involvement will make you feel comfortable about her getting to go off and eat some pussy? A photo, a video, you get to watch, but you don't get to touch or play or join in. Like, there are degrees of possibility, of accommodation, of inclusion. Yeah. What degree of inclusion will make it sexy for you too? So there's something in it for you too.
Yeah. Not to just kiss your ass too much here, but that's what I love about you as I guess your perspective. You always take a point that I didn't really think you would do. Like, I thought you were going to say this guy's being selfish and kind of an asshole for thinking, oh, she's bisexual. Naturally, I'll get to take advantage of that. But it's a really interesting thing you said. Like, that is a negotiation, and it's not out of line for him to ask how he can gain from it.
You have two people. One is like, I'm bi, and she hasn't said yet that she needs to go eat some pussy. But let's say she did say that, or that was an understanding. This is what I want in a relationship. I want you and pussy every once in a while. And he's like, well, I want monogamy. And so how do we move closer to each other? What's the deal that we can craft that's unique to us, that makes it possible for me to be with you and you to be with me, and both of us feel sexually fulfilled, both of us feel honored by the other, important to each other. So there's something in it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There should be something in it for both of us. Literally, that phrase is something my husband and I use all the time when there's some sort of outside sexual encounter or somebody else we want to mess around with. Like, we will say, what's in it for me to each other. And that's not a bad impulse. To like, if you are partnered with somebody and you are allowed to have sex with other people, to like want to build into that thing that you get to do, something that benefits your partner too, that makes your partner likelier to like be down, to sign off, to be happy about it, to be excited for you, to be in the room with you.
So Mo and I have problems because Mo wants to have sex with himself, but he can't reach his face down
all the way to his pelvic floor.
And he has a joke.
Not yet. I'm in Phoenix, not only doing stand-up, but I'm at a yoga convention. So.
I will say, and I always think about this, what Mo was saying about your advice, catching us off guard. One of my favorite things was when somebody called in and they said they caught their significant other, I think, had been fantasizing about having sex with their first cousin, and you were kind of like, get over it. And I thought I was like, oh, okay.
You can marry your first cousin in 26 states, in Canada, in Mexico, in all of Europe, Asia, Japan. First cousin marriage is allowed. Like, first cousin thinking about her and jerking off, that's a crime?
Right. So I was like,
wait,
okay.
Really? You can marry your first cousin?
Yeah, in 26 states, legally recognized in all 50.
Damn.
Are they the same states where you can smoke legal marijuana?
I don't know.
We should look at the map of that.
First cousin marriage has always been. Charles Darwin married a first cousin. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was married to a first cousin. Yeah. It's not that odd, and genetically speaking, it's not that consequential. It would be a problem if everybody married a first cousin, if that was the cultural norm. But the odd person who marries a first cousin, everyone runs around like they're fucking their mom. It's like, chill the fuck out.
I don't know. I don't know if I mean, I'd have to do more research, but I think I was reading some article and they were saying that there's a lot of problems in certain immigrant communities that come over to America where people really want to like sleep with people within their same ethnic community. But a lot of times they're in certain areas, they're only like certain amount of people from those communities, and a lot of inter-cousin sort of breeding
that's
goes
why I
on.
said everybody shouldn't marry their cousins constantly. That would be a problem in the long run.
Yeah.
And those sorts of concerns about immigrant communities tend to burn out in a generation or two, and people begin to marry out. Even first gen, the kids often reject that kind of forced marriage or cousin marriage.
Another thing we
So I
should
don't think it's a
factor in.
concern.
A lot of characters in Game of Thrones marry their cousins, and they're very violent.
But they're married.
So I don't know.
They're
Yeah.
they're the sibling fuckers.
The
in that
sibling
one.
fuckers. I always think that's fascinating. I know you talk a lot about incest porn and stuff, but this is so interesting to me that in Game of Thrones, there's somewhere that was scandalous and then it became kind of less so, or just like people stopped being kind of put off, and it's just
then it became
normalized
hot.
this like siblings fucking relationship,
were
and
so
everybody's
evil.
obsessed with it.
Like whatever
Yeah.
her name is, Cersei and Jaime were so evil at the start, and then they became more sympathetic. You know, as her
Right.
kids died, as he was tortured, as his hand was cut off, and suddenly we were empathizing with these people who were just like pure evil, and then we began to root for them in certain ways,
Right.
Which meant rooting for their relationship, which was evidence of their pure evilness at the start. And now it's like, wait, what? What did you do to me, Game of Thrones?
Yes. I was thinking about that because I actually, got the banner last night, HBO, like catch up, and I was like, I'm going to catch up. And then I was like, oh, right, there's so much sibling fucking. Like,
I just had
what? Like, what?
a year ago, I was sort of like in bed for, I don't know, a week because I wasn't feeling well. I had the flu. I don't remember what. And I watched like all 4 or 5 seasons of Game of Thrones, but with the remote in my hand, I skipped everything in the fucking wall.
Oh,
Every time they were at the goddamn wall, I just fast forwarded through it. So basically, I had the Westeros and whatever the North Castle is. What's that one called? Where the Starks are from. I just had that. I just had that little like, and it took
Why do you
half
hate?
the time.
Why you hate on the wall? Why
Because it's
do you
so
not like the wall?
fucking boring.
It is pretty
We're
boring,
standing
yeah.
around at the ice factory.
How dare you? Those guys are sacrificing to protect us from the wildlings. You can't even just pay attention to the crows for a bit.
You know, I also didn't buy the wall. For that to be a wall that straddled that entire geographic border, there would be tens of thousands of troops. There would be not just this one little outpost with look like 30 guys and 10 extras.
That's
Well,
true.
that always is a weird thing. Like, I agree with you. A lot of times that's the problem with Game of Thrones. They're like, he has 90,000 men. You're like, I've only seen 5 of them. Where are the-
This
where
the
are the
camera
other
angle
guys?
shooting from above straight up in the air. It's kind of making it hard to see all your soldiers.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they're telling us a great story. They're giving us what they can within their budget. But I just like the wall annoyed and all the like glowering and, I find Jon Snow to be the dullest character in Game of Thrones.
Oh, me too, me too.
And I had thought he was amazing, and then when I was watching it again, I was like, oh yeah, this is like what the stuff he's saying is not rising up any feelings. It just
Hamlet's
seems
around.
stupid.
Oh, and now he's
Yeah.
fucking his aunt.
Yeah, right.
We just
There
found
you
out at the
go.
end of last spoiler for other people. He's fucking his aunt.
But
So more incest.
isn't that really the way all royalty was for a long time?
Yeah,
They were
so
just
there's
like fucking
tons of
their aunts
inbreeding.
and-
That's why you ended up with the Bourbons and the Spanish Bourbons, who basically were people turned inside out by the end of that monarchy.
So crazy.
Worth
Anyway,
it, though. Hey, Dan, can we ask you a question about how you... Okay, so me and Ashley just did this podcast, The Fighter and the Kid, and it was really awesome. We got a huge bump off it, and they're great podcasters.
Tell them to have me
But,
on.
Okay, I will. I will definitely do that. I think we actually plugged that you were going to be on our show on there, I think. Anyway, so it was exposing us to a very big audience, which is great. It's been really nice to gain new fans. But then we've also got like a shitload of you get negative YouTube comments and stuff, and I'd say 98% of them were about me. And which was very embarrassing because I've been doing stand-up for 14 years. I have a lot of experience with podcasts and TV shows, and Ashley had none and came off 1,000 times better than I did, which I haven't been able to get hard for about 8 days. How do you handle negativity online and make it not just overwhelming?
Well, you don't have to always show up for it. And I think that can be hard for people. And I've gotten really good at that. I've faced some real shitstorms where like Fox News was coming after me for a week. In 2000, it also happened in 2012, 2014, where I said there's bullshit in the Bible in front of 4,000 high school students.
ooh,
And people are pouring into my mentions and people are blowing up my email. And it just, does this not occur to other people to like, don't look at your mentions for a week, to like delete the app for Twitter from your phone for the week, let it burn out? Because they all move on to a fresh target. And I've found that if you try to engage people who are mad at you, they get madder at you. So there's like literally no upside in engaging. You just have to like wait till the next, squirrel runs by and the whole mob, left wing or right wing, because I've been attacked by both varieties. The whole mob goes,
who's worse, left wing or right wing?
Well, right wing is louder and bigger because there seems to be more of them out there, and they're all part of the outrage machine. Left wing is more painful because I feel like I'm a person of the left. So when the left is coming after you, it's like, wait, what? I'm on your side. It's like being attacked by family as opposed to being attacked by strangers.
That was like Mo has a part right about his stand up that he, is talking about me, and to some extent he's kind of playing up how he feels kind of inadequate compared to, like a strong professional woman and
who cuts open dicks.
And, in my mind, he's being like very, kind of feminist in this kind of, roundabout way. And it sounds like he, got kind of yelled at a few times afterwards. And he was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, well, no, this is how you can't. That was telling Ashley. I was like, this is how you cannot fucking win with liberal people sometimes, which I, of course, am as well. So I do this bit in my act where I'm like, my girlfriend makes so much more money than me, and I love it because, I'm gonna take it all one day, and but, I'm like, the joke is, I think I say like, the great thing about marrying someone rich is even if it doesn't work out, it worked out. Like how you.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm like, okay, I'm talking about a powerful rich woman. Blah, blah, I make her sound even richer. I make myself sound poor. And then this lesbian woman comes out to me on the show, is furious. She's like, I married a woman who took all my money. I didn't like that. I'm like, all right, well then I fucking give up because this is ridiculous.
Yeah, fuck that lesbian. How'd you know she was a lesbian? Did she have to like peel a vulva off her face before she started yelling at you?
Wait, did she have to peel the what?
Vulva off her face before she started yelling at you.
She yelled at me through the asshole of the pussy that she was eating. No, it sounds delightful. No,
so she was yelling at you from the pelvic floor.
Exactly, and Ashley was there fingering it. It was. Oh,
I love doing that.
Oh, can I say one more quickly? I kind of got sidetracked because I'm stoned. My point being, like, you don't have to show up for the abuse. Like, people are like sitting in front of their phone, sitting in front of their computer, like soaking in the anger and abuse and being so wounded by it. And I've literally physically done this to, somebody I know who stepped in shit and like the internet blew up with them. Just walked over and like closed their laptop. Like, there, that's better, isn't it? Now let's go see a movie. That'll kill 3 hours. Like, and in a week it's over. In a week it'll pass.
Yeah. Mo's been really interested in this because he has been watching a lot of rap battles recently, and he really thinks he's like Eminem or something, and he wants to go to war with his haters and shut them down.
No, it's because, babe, you understand what my life is like. You go to a doctor, you go to a hospital, you're surrounded by people. I'm doing stand-up in Phoenix. I'm alone all day in a fucking hotel room. I have nothing.
It passes the time to engage with the haters. As long as you enjoy it.
No, but I don't enjoy it.
Hence, don't do it. Doctor, it hurts when I go like this. Well, stop cutting your dick open by yourself. That's my job.
Mo, okay. I tell men who are like 3 times my age what to do with their dicks. Do you think I don't engage with the haters? Like,
do you engage with the haters?
I mean, the thing is, right?
When you have no haters.
No, when you're a medical professional, right? You have this interesting situation where you come one-on-one and you're alone with people from every walk of life and every belief, and you are there to cater to them, And in the environment I'm in, which is managed care, there are people who walk through who didn't research you online and don't know who you are before you walk through the door.
And you walk through the door
and they're like, oh,
you don't look like a doctor.
Yeah, you don't look like a doctor. I wish you were a man, like shit, so
that's only what I tell you. I didn't know other people also. Oh, wait, okay, so I got a question for Dan. I know we got to wrap it up soon, but I got a question for Dan on my Twitter. I said, what does anybody have for me to ask Dan? And again, I don't think you're going to want to answer this one either, but it said, Dan likes to tell it how it is, so ask him straight up, which sexual orientation is the most kinky? That's a tough one. I know.
It's not a tough one. It's not a tough one at all. Men are likelier to have paraphilias and sexual fetishes and kinks. Gay men are likelier to be men. I think as a percentage, there are probably more straight people out there doing kinky things. There's a percentage of more straight people butt fucking on any given Saturday night than gay people butt fucking on any Saturday night. 'Cause there's so many more straight people.
Percentages? Wait, what do you mean? Out of the small group?
75% of gay men engage in anal intercourse, 25% don't. That number flips for straight couples, like roughly 15-25% of straight couples report having engaged regularly in anal intercourse. But there's only like 3 to 7% of the population is gay.
Oh,
half of that is men.
Yeah.
And so that 75% of that small number is going to be, real numbers, a smaller number than the 20% of the 90+% of people who are engaging in anal intercourse.
Any given night, the butts that are being penetrated are heterosexual butts.
Wait, you're blowing my mind. You're telling me only 75% of male gay couples engage in anal sex.
Yes.
There's 25%.
25, not couples. Gay, roughly 25% of gay men never have anal intercourse. It's not as definitional or central to gay male sexual expression as vaginal is to straight people. Straight people project that shit onto gay people. Some gay people fall for that shit. It hurts your sex life if you believe that. Straight guys who come to me and say, "Oh, I wish I could get laid more." I'm like, the last time you got a blowjob, you told me you didn't have sex. Maybe if you broadened your definition of sex, you'd be getting laid more.
I don't mean to project
every time
it
you
at
went to
all.
your female partner because you were horny, if every time she said yes to sex, it didn't mean she had to get fucked, maybe she'd say yes to sex more often. If sometimes she didn't have to be penetrated. You're not always up to being penetrated. But to your question, who's kinkier? Definitely gay men are kinkier because gay men are men. And so you have two men in a relationship. Also, to be gay, you have to admit to something that's difficult. If you looked I always like to say this way. My poor deceased mother, my poor late mother had to listen to me say this when she was alive, but now she's dead. When you look your mother in the eye and tell her you're a cocksucker, looking your boyfriend in the eye and saying pee on me is not as scary. It never will be as scary. So gay guys are likelier to ask for what they want, whereas straight kinky people are like so fucking riddled with shame about it. And we have to shrug that shit off to be gay in the first place before we even get to do anything.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
That said, so I do just think gay people are more open about being kinky or more open about being non-monogamous and likelier to do the things that they came out of the closet to fucking do, right? That said, there's so many fewer gay people compared to straight people that in real numbers, there are more kinky straight people and most of the kinky sex that happens is straight.
Well, I think the reason that might be is what you just said is that gay people are, and again, I'm just a projection. I have no idea if it's true or not, but I think you just said this, that gay people are less likely to be monogamous. Thus, they might not have to kink it up to enjoy it because you're actually getting to be with different people. Because straight couples are always being monogamous. They're like, this is boring.
He says that like a perfectly vanilla person. Does he not have any kinks at all?
Because he doesn't like me to talk about that
kink
stuff.
Kink is not variety. It's not like people become kinky because they're bored. Like people have kinks that are part of their sexual script that they want to act out with whoever.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's not like you transition to bondage because you've been together so long now you have to tie each other up to sustain an interest. Although people will try to experiment, try to shake things up, and they should, and I'd like to encourage that. But there's a difference between a long-established couple trying to shake something up by, going to the sex toy shop and someone who's kinky, who was like tying himself up when he was 12 and jacking off, is not, someone who's going to introduce bondage into the relationship because he's suddenly bored with his partner. Bondage was always a part of who he was.
Right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, Dan, this has been a great experience having you on. Expect a porn submission immediately from us.
I will. I will look forward to you guys next year in Hump.
His 20-minute dick video is not going to make it, but
we have a 5-minute.
Well,
5 minutes max.
Say that now. It might. I've been working. I've been stretching. I've been doing a lot of things.
You take that 20-minute video, you speed it up, you put the Benny Hill soundtrack over it, you're right in. You're in Hump at 5 minutes.
I can actually do a ventriloquist as my penis sings, "Hello, my baby."
There you go.
No, clearly we're making you the dick unicorn. Okay, is that not what we're going to do?
You do live with the dick surgeon. You're gonna wake up one morning.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oops.
What is the copay on a dick unicorn transplant? That's the real question.
It has to be defined.
Well, this is a better question than dick unicorn. Dick transplants.
Yeah.
We've had face transplants, arm transplants. I believe we've had a couple of dick transplants. Will we have? Will the surgery become good enough where you get all the nerve endings back and all you can feel everything good enough that there will be what's it, cosmetic dick transplants, like elective dick transplants? Not I got my junk blown off or I fell on a hot pipe, but I want a bigger one.
That is such an interesting question. I think the main reason why you probably wouldn't do it for cosmetic reasons is just because anytime you have a transplant, you have to be on lifelong immunosuppression. So, and maybe people really will in, plus minus state be like, yeah, for me to have the premium dick, I'm willing to put myself at risk on being on lifelong immunosuppressive drugs for that. Possibly. I do think the sensation will be, pretty fantastic. I think, the ability to
and there's no problem transplanting erectile chambers. It doesn't interfere with their function at all.
No, it can. I mean, yeah, it's not perfect. Anytime you cut into the lining of the erectile chamber, you put somebody at risk of erectile dysfunction. So like Peyronie surgeries, you can do, for example, a graft. Mm-hmm. So like I'll do a surgery where I take a patch of your skin and put it on the inside of your penis. We cut out the scar tissue, put that down. So there's a 1/3 chance that you're going to have permanent erectile dysfunction after that. And that's just because
yikes, and guys still do it?
And guys will still do it because the way you have to think about it, if your Peyronie's is like, if you're curved all the way back towards your face, you're erect, but you're not having sex. Right. So it's just about function. And those people can start injecting themselves, taking pills, whatever they got to do.
So for you to treat I'm sorry, I keep asking so many questions. I'm stoned and I think this is fascinating. If you treat people with Peyronie's, do you have to see their erect penis to gauge?
Oh, yes.
And how do they produce their erect penis for you? Photos or do you?
She has special outfits. The opposite of
like it would seem to violate the sort of like doctor-patient sort of decorum to have an erection in front of your doctor.
Right.
But if your doctor is going to treat your Peyronie's, she's going to have to see how severe it is, what the bend is like.
So that's a great question. So you can't treat an erection without seeing it. So a few ways. Part of the initial assessment, I'll ask lots of people to either bring in photos of their erection or email photos of their erection, in which I'm like, yes, I'm your doctor. I'm asking for dick pic. It's okay. Like
a solicited dick pic.
Solicited dick pic. He's like, I'm scared my primary doctor is going to see this. I'm like, they may. It's okay. Anyway, so that's number one. Number two, during the evaluation and during the course of treatment, you routinely have to give them an erection. And the way to get around this is to give them an injection in the office, right? So there's medications that do that. And
you inject right into the penis and it gets
right
hard.
into their
I know porn stars who use this.
Exactly. And here's the great thing about that, right? If you take a shit ton of Viagra, but you're not aroused, it's not going to do anything. Those meds, you can be doing your taxes, you're going to fucking have a hard on, right? So there's no component of desire or brain signaling or anything that those require.
And can you write me
Viagra.
a prescription for this?
Yes.
Shot?
Well, you'd have to be my patient, but yes. And super easy to get.
I will fill out whatever form you'd like me to fill out.
Yeah. So it's amazing because I say to the guys, you will have an erection here, but do not feel like I know that this erection is entirely uncoupled from sexual desire. So it's fine.
So you've done nothing wrong.
There's
erections without guilt because there's no sexual. I mean, that's basically the implication.
It's not a sexual event. This is just an erection. It's just.
Not a sexual event is a better way to say it. You haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
There's no desire behind this, so it's an innocent erection as opposed to all those other erections you've ever had, which were evil.
And don't right. And don't get me wrong. People have gotten erections in my office without that stuff, and like I also normalize it.
Well,
because
now you're just bragging, babe. Now you're just bragging. All right. All right. We get it. You're hot. All right. You're hot.
She is hot. If I was straight and someone's going to cut open my dick, I'd want it to be your girlfriend.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Well, Dan, you're in your 50s, so when it comes time, just
to be straight or get my dick cut open?
No, not to be straight. To have your dick cut open. We could do it live on the show. We'll do a live stream it.
I hope that's not inevitable. It's not like all men eventually get their dicks cut open.
No, definitely not. But
cremated someday, yes. Cut open, hopefully not.
Well, babe, this is a funny thing. So Dan, I always have this weed analogy with these erection shots you're talking about. So she was saying that like a lot of times she'll teach guys how to do these shots.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when you smoke weed and you're like, I'm not high yet. So you take another hit and then you're like, I'm still not high. You take another hit and then you're way too high. Mm-hmm. Guys do the same thing with the shot. So they give them a shot at home, like, I'm not hard. I'll do another shot. And then all of a sudden they're way too hard and they have to rate.
Yes.
It is exactly like when you smoke weed because I'm like, this is way too much.
What's the antidote if you're way too hard?
It's terrible, actually. I had a patient who
they have to cut your dick open.
No.
They really do.
We have to stick large needles in it and drain it and put other medication in it. And if that doesn't work, then yes, you have to cut the dick open.
Have to flay it.
You have to do something called a shunt.
What?
Yeah, where you actually literally can cut a hole in the glands and put a metal rod down and.
Oh, you sound them.
But through the, like if I went through the meat. Not through the urethra.
Oh my.
I cut a hole next to your urethra.
Oh my god! Oh my god! All right, can we change this subject? Can we talk about bisexuals again?
I know. This is the problem.
Wait, Dan, you said she sounds them? What did you say?
Sounding is where you insert a metal rod into a man's urethra, sort of sink it into his urethra. Not as painful as it sounds.
Well, because we were talking about something
Which
on the
can be
podcast
erotic.
called gauging. We thought it was called gauging when they do the the erotic play where people put things inside their penis for sexual.
It's called sounding.
No.
It's called
sounding.
Those implements are called sounds and mostly used properly by doctors, but recreationally deployed by kinksters.
Yeah. No, I think, and this is something I'm not sure, but I think gauging would be if you try to enlarge your urethra.
Yeah.
And
because then you're increasing the gauge, the width of whatever it is. People talk about the gauges in their ears or their nose.
Right.
People in Portland who wait tables.
Right. I just would be scared that my earlobe would fall down.
When you people put those big stretchy things in their earlobes and then they take them out and we call them ear labia. Oh. They just dangle there like these ribbons of flesh, and I'm sure they're very beautiful. Labia is very beautiful, aesthetically gorgeous, lovely, but and then they walk and they waddle. It's just, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like everyone's mother, oh dear.
Yeah. No, that's why I wouldn't go there.
I think it's convenient for people to do that because then you don't even have to ask them if they're in a band. You just already know just based on.
Or you don't have to worry that they're a lawyer or a doctor or a banker. Or
you see them with that and you go, oh, so you play bass. Okay, cool. Well, now at least we got that out of the way. I'll take a salad. That
was one of our where I did residency. One of our attendings, one of our faculty, who had been from Portland. He got a full tattoo sleeve on his arm, and everyone's like, he's a surgeon. What is it? You can see that tattoo. And I'm like, I don't know. It's fine.
I think tattoos are now entirely mainstream.
Yeah.
I've seen people working in banks with neck tattoos.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed, and I'm fine with that. I don't think that's a problem.
What's your opinion on the face tattoo trend, though?
There's a guy who works at the salon where I get my hair cut in Seattle who has complete face coverage. So I think the tattoo things are...
It's there.
It's done. There. It's over. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it would, about 15 years ago when I would go to Iowa to see my brother's family, I thought, now that they're all getting tattoos here, it's going to stop on the coasts.
Yeah.
But it hasn't.
Yeah. Well, from my standpoint, I like the tattoo trend because when I think it was yesterday or the day before, a guy literally said to me, if I could get all these tattoos, I can have you stick a needle in my dick. So... I was like,
yeah, they're braced for you.
There you go.
All the guys are prepped.
Yeah, they're ready. So I love it.
Oh, babe, we forgot to ask Dan when we were talking about this fake penis unicorn question.
Oh,
Dan, we were going to ask you this. If you were going to get, this is kind of a callback to our real answers to fake questions. If you were going to get any mystical fake sexual surgery, what would it be?
And it can't be longer or larger.
Yeah, if you were going to get any
something
mystical
more
Narnia,
creative than that.
Like if you had a doctor in Narnia.
Some sort of enhancement.
Some sort of enhancement?
Like sort of mystical, magical
creative enhancement.
Like a tail or something?
I don't know. What would it be?
But it would have to be to help you sexually. It's all about your sexual performance.
But it can't be to make my dick bigger.
Yeah, that's too boring.
Think outside the box.
And practical at this stage.
Right.
God, I don't know.
It could be a little gnome that hangs off your ballsack and whispers dirty things to your husband.
That actually would be okay because I am a big fan of dirty talk during sex, and so getting to outsource that to a third party that could be their just sole responsibility.
Just a little gnome who swings around your balls,
hangs out by my ear while we're fucking around, saying just the filthiest fucking shit, so my husband doesn't have to rattle that all off every time.
That's good. I like
Babe,
that.
do you think you would be able to surgically implant a small garden gnome sort of above his?
Definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great. I mean, this is definitely something to look into, I think, when we do this again.
Yeah. All right. So do you think we've probably kept you here quite a while? So.
Yeah, you can't put this whole 2 hours up. Hour and a half we've been talking. We have to edit this down into something manageable.
We'll
People have other podcasts to listen to, like mine.
So many.
Well, yeah. Do you want to plug all your stuff and then we'll let you go?
Yeah.
Please listen to my podcast, The Savage Lovecast. It's at savagelovecast.com. Read my column, Savage Love. It appears in about 70 papers around the country and the world. It's in Italian, in International. And you can find it at thestranger.com/savage. All my stuff is there. Yeah, do that. And come see Hump, humpfilmfest.com. Hump travels to 60, 70 cities now. So wait for Hump to come to you. And this is porn you can't find online. It's only in theaters, and it will never be online. So if you want to see what Hump's all about, you got to show the fuck up.
So cool. Thanks.
Thanks so much for coming on, Dan. We love you. And it meant a lot to us that you came on our show.
So it was my pleasure. I had a blast. And if it's okay with you, I want to borrow your girlfriend for my show.
Oh, please. Absolutely. And she'll do that gnome thing.
Because we have some dick ground to cover on my show.
Let's do it.
Ashley and I would like to thank all of you for listening to our humble podcast. Please subscribe and give us a good rating. Tell all your friends. And don't forget, we are answering all your questions at 213-631-3460 or at thefullreleasepod@gmail.com.